land,
Yep.
did travels in Trump land. We are about to leave the EU, although, as Martin says, it's just political tomorrow. We've already heard a voice of doom this morning from Sir Ed Davey saying that he's going to shed a tear. We've heard from Ian Duncan-Smith saying it's time for everyone to get over it. What do you feel about tomorrow evening?
I guess I feel there'll be a small number of people who will be really celebrating, a small number who will be really depressed. Most people in the country will think that thank goodness it's over and we're leaving and it's done after the vote. And what happens next is all really uncertain, but that's going to take years to resolve. We won't know its impact on our economy, good or bad, for quite a long time. But I think most people will think, well, thank God it's done.
People vote. I mean, I think we can see pictures from yesterday of Nigel Farage in the Parliament, the European Parliament, sort of waving goodbye, literally, with the Union flag. There are plenty of people who think he's achieved an absolutely extraordinary thing. It was time to get out of an anti-democratic institution. It's time to take back control. You know, we can grasp a fantastic economic opportunity. Can you see anything good about it? Can you know, to unite us all? As you've been travelling around Euroland, did you find people perhaps who want to do the same thing?
I think the anti-democratic thing is to ignore the result of a referendum when people have voted. So that would clearly be anti-democratic. The EU was never anti-democratic. Governments and countries chose to be in. They made decisions together for good or bad. I think the thing which I feel about the Leave vote, and you see this echoed all across the programme we make, is there's lots of people in our countries who feel they haven't been listened to, it's not been fair, the economy's not been great, things which they value haven't been kind of preserved, and they want change. And if the change is leaving the EU, well, people thought, I'll roll the dice for that change because it can't be worse. And if you don't listen to that, look, what actually happened was you had the leader of the Labour Party and the leader of the Conservative Party both telling people in 2016, stay in, and half the country said, no. We're not going to listen to you.
Well, the experience that you had, though, Ed, some of the places that you visited, some of the people that you met, it sounded like a fascinating insight into understand how there's been this sort of sudden increase in far-right politics across Europe, particularly. But what it seems from what I've read from what you've done is that they're not doesn't mean that they're necessarily far-right leaning. They just don't want to be ignored, some of these people.
Well, I think that's right. And the common thing, if you go and see the voters for Trump, they weren't always voting because they wanted Trump. They just didn't want the normal politics. The same was true, I think, here. And if you look across Europe, you find lots of people, ordinary, decent people, who don't feel that they're being listened to. They end up voting for the party which comes and says they're on your side. That can end up being really kind of quite extreme. So we go tonight to this place in Germany, which it was dubbed the Nazi village, because it had the biggest vote, this town in East Germany, for the AfD, the really far-right party. And actually, when you go, I mean, I couldn't find any Nazis. What I found people saying, they closed our local school. And the kids had to travel to another place for school. And the only politician who came in the election and listened to us was the AfD. And so we voted for them. And actually, I think if people feel ignored, they end up voting for, in that case, about their school. But the AfD, it's really extreme. This is Germany. I ended up with a politician last night who defends a poster for the election, which is a pregnant white woman, and the slogan is New Germans. It says, we can breed our own, we can make our own, we don't need migrants, it's Aryan. I mean, that is like the Germany of the 30s and 40s.
The people that voted in this village, did they understand, and obviously they like the message about looking after their village and their school, but did they understand the ramifications of voting for people with that sort of range of politics, with that sort of belief?
They were really shocked. All these media has arrived in Germany to see the Nazi village, and they think, how did that end up being us?
So they didn't appreciate the...
And I think in the Polish case there, the Polish mine workers, they're actually now quite anti-EU. They're anti the Polish leaders who've gone to Europe because the EU is saying you've got to close the coal mines for climate change, and they're thinking, well, hang on a sec. It's our jobs, it's our community. They end up voting for a party which has quite extreme views, but actually what they're really voting to do is to defend their way of life. And if you don't help people to come to terms with that or do something about it, you end up with these far-right politicians. And we've seen that in the 20th century in Germany, Italy, Spain, we had dictators who were far-right.
Why did Labour do so badly in the election? And who is the leader who could give people like you hope that you can take Boris Johnson out of office in 5 years' time?
Well, look, I mean, I think taking Boris Johnson out of office in 5 years' time is going to be quite a challenge.
So none of the candidates.
No, I think it's really hard. I mean, to answer your first question, why did Labour lose? It was partly Brexit. Although actually, I think Brexit was about respect. Loads and loads of people outside of London who are leavers, but some remainers, all felt, well, hang on, we voted for this, and it sounds like Labour's going to reverse it, or at least it's unclear. And they thought, well, you can't treat us like that. So Brexit was a big deal, but also Jeremy Corbyn was not somebody people in the country thought would keep them safe, that things would be secure. All that debate about Russia was bad. And I'm afraid the manifesto as well, when you added it all up, it looked like it had a big bill. And I think people were thinking,
still through
it.
The other thing, though, which kind of goes to the heart of the TV programme we've been making, is that...
So you don't... Sorry, just to interrupt, that you don't hold with this. Jeremy Corbyn was terribly unfairly treated. There, people were out to get him, and there was no way he could emerge a winner when he was just under constant attack.
Of course not.
That this had nothing to do with his abilities as a leader. This was a sort of, a campaign against him.
Of course I don't. And I think that's absurd. Look, every politician, every political leader at times is attacked and has a hard time. I think sometimes it's harder for Labour leaders than Conservative leaders. And I think Jeremy Corbyn at times had a tough time. But when it comes to anti-Semitism, that was his failure of leadership. On security, it was his failure to persuade people. And it looked like Labour was a party of London and the cities. And actually, our country is made up of cities and loads of towns and villages. And if the people outside the cities don't think you're talking to them, they vote for somebody else.
Do you think you need a leader from outside London, then? Do you think you need a leader
Well, I don't think it's as simple as that. I definitely think you need a leader who actually doesn't sound simply like a metropolitan Londoner and somebody who can unite both.
You've got four choices. You've got Emily Thornberry, you've got Lisa Nandy, you've got Rebecca Longbody, and you've got Keir Starmer. Who are you going for?
Well, the great thing for me about being a BBC documentary maker is I can say, I'll vote the way I want, but I don't have to endorse a candidate at all. I do think it's a really big challenge. I don't look at any of them and say it's obvious that they can do it, because I think it's really hard. Whoever wins
That's a bit
has got a
dispiriting
massive...
if you're a Labour member.
Well, I think it's a huge challenge. And I think actually it starts from this. The leader who I will most believe in is the one who says from the start, this is a big deal, we really failed, and it's going to take some time to turn this around. And if they don't say that, if they say it's all fine, they've not got a chance.
Talking about turning around.
Yes, exactly. I was going to say, Lorraine is standing by and probably wants to know about the thing that we keep talking about.
Before we come to you, Lorraine, you'll be keen to hear this, because the last episode, I think, Ed, of your Travels in Euroland, you meet an Instagrammer, an influencer.
I do, she's amazing.
Introduced you to the idea of non-invasive bottom lifts.
Well, I mean, she told me it was non-invasive. It was a buttock massage with these sort of paddles, and we were both lying prone, and I was talking to her about Salvini, the populist leader. While this was going on, it felt... Invasive. It felt like an invasive buttock lift, and I daren't look back, because I just didn't want... I mean, it felt... I mean, it was going places that I didn't expect.
Wow.
And I was... So I'm saying to her, so this political... And she kept saying, we need a strong man. Italy needs a strong man. And I kept saying, well, hang on a second, not too strong.